Saudi Arabia today, it's all luxury and oil wealth, but less than a century ago, it was just endless desert. So how did it rise so fast? Oil, and one American family may have helped more than you think. The Rockefellers, a name tied to oil for over a century, could be the real key. Chapter 1. From desert tribes to a powerful kingdom. Not too long ago, Saudi Arabia was mostly desert. There were no big cities, no tall buildings, and certainly no oil. People lived in tents, moved with the seasons, and raised animals to survive. Their income came mostly from Muslims around the world, visiting Mecca and Medina for the Hajj pilgrimage. Then came a leader named Abdulaziz ibn Saud, a man with a dream. He united scattered tribes across the desert through smart planning, strategic marriages, and military victories. In 1932, he officially founded the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But even then, the country had very little money. What changed their future forever was one thing: oil. But they didn't find it alone. They had help from across the ocean, from the legacy of John D. Rockefeller, the man who had created America's biggest oil empire. Chapter 2. The Rockefellers Step In. In 1933, Saudi Arabia made a very important and historic deal with a company called Standard Oil of California. This company was one of the powerful oil businesses created after the big monopoly that John D. Rockefeller once controlled was broken up by the government. Even though Rockefeller himself had already passed away by then, the huge oil empire he had built was still going strong and very influential around the world. Back then, almost no one knew if there was any oil under the deserts of Saudi Arabia. It was a big question mark and a huge risk to spend money and time looking for oil there. But the Saudi government gave permission to the Americans to explore the land and see if they could find any oil. So the American company started drilling in the eastern part of the country, hoping for a big discovery. Then, in 1938, something amazing happened. They struck oil in the city of Dhahran. This was not just a small find, it was a massive discovery. Beneath the dry, hot desert sands of Saudi Arabia lay one of the biggest oil reserves ever found in the world. This moment changed everything for Saudi Arabia. Almost overnight, the country's future shifted from being a poor desert land to becoming one of the richest places on earth. At the heart of this incredible change was a company that was directly connected to the oil empire John D. Rockefeller had started many years before. Chapter 3. The Creation of Aramco. Once oil began flowing, the Americans and Saudis set up a new company together. It was called Aramco, short for Arabian American Oil Company. Aramco was run mostly by American experts and managers, but the oil belonged to Saudi Arabia. The Americans brought the technology and tools, while the Saudis provided the land and labor. But even with all the money coming in, the profits were not equal. The Americans made more money, controlled more of the operations, and called the shots. The Saudi government wanted a better deal. So, after negotiations, a new agreement was made in the 1950s. The profits would now be shared equally, 50-50. This was a turning point. Saudi Arabia had moved from being a junior partner to a powerful one. And once again, behind the scenes, the methods and models being used came from the playbook of Rockefeller's business style: slow, strategic, and long-term. Chapter 4. The Petrodollar Deal. Let's fast forward to the 1970s, a time when oil prices started to rise very quickly. The world was using more and more energy every year, and countries needed oil like never before. It was clear that oil was becoming one of the most important resources in the world. During this period, the United States and Saudi Arabia made a very important and powerful agreement that would change global trade forever. They decided that all oil sales would have to be paid for using US dollars. This agreement created what we now call the petrodollar system. Why does this matter so much? Because it meant that any country that wanted to buy oil, whether it was China, Germany, or India, first had to buy US dollars. This made the American dollar stronger and gave the US more control over the global economy. In return, Saudi Arabia got military protection, weapons, and political support. And yes, much of this system was built on the business strategies used by families like the Rockefellers, who had deep roots in both the oil industry and American finance. Chapter 5. Extreme Wealth for the Few. Oil made the Saudi royal family unbelievably rich. Their wealth is hard to even imagine. Picture palaces decorated with gold, huge super yachts built just for them, and private jets that fly anywhere in the world. Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman once bought a painting for $450 million. That's the most expensive piece of art ever sold. He also owns a castle in France that cost about $300 million. But while the royal family lives in such luxury, life is very different for many ordinary people in Saudi Arabia. Millions of Saudis still struggle with low incomes. It is estimated that between 2 and 4 million people in the country earn less than $530 a month. Poverty is rarely talked about openly. In fact, people who try to speak out about poor living conditions or criticize the government often face serious consequences. They can be arrested or forced to stay silent. One shocking example of this was the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. He was killed in 2018 after speaking out against the royal family. His murder caused anger and protests all over the world. Still, because Saudi Arabia is so wealthy and powerful, its leaders have been mostly protected from punishment or real consequences. Chapter 6. Owning their oil. While some countries like Iran and Venezuela took a bold and sudden step called nationalization, where they quickly took full control of their oil industries away from foreign companies, Saudi Arabia chose a different path. Instead of rushing, Saudi Arabia acted slowly and carefully. Over many years, they gradually bought back shares in the big oil company Aramco. Step by step, they increased their ownership. By the year 1980, Saudi Arabia owned Aramco completely. But they did this without frightening their American partners. This slow and steady approach helped keep both sides happy. Saudi Arabia gained full control of its valuable oil resources while still keeping strong and friendly relationships with powerful Western countries, especially the United States. This way, the kingdom avoided the risks that sudden takeovers could bring, like political conflicts or loss of foreign investment. Soon after, Saudi Arabia became a leading member of OPEC, the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. OPEC was created so oil-producing countries could work together to control oil production and prices worldwide. Saudi Arabia quickly became the biggest and most powerful member of OPEC. With its vast oil reserves and production capacity, it gained the ability to influence global oil prices by deciding how much oil to pump. This smart, patient planning was very much like the strategy used by the Rockefeller oil empire. It wasn't about loud, sudden moves. Instead, it was about quiet power, slow control, and smart influence that shaped the oil world for decades. Chapter 7. The Future. So, are the Rockefellers still behind Saudi Arabia's wealth today? Not directly, but their legacy definitely played a huge role in shaping the early days of Saudi oil. The partnerships, the deals, the business models, all started with American companies tied to the Rockefeller name. Today, Saudi Arabia is planning for a future beyond oil. They've created the Public Investment Fund, which is expected to grow to $2 trillion by 2030. They're investing in technology, sports, tourism, and even building an entirely new futuristic city called Neom. But at the same time, they're still tied to the petrodollar deal from the 1970s. Most oil is still sold in US dollars. Much of Saudi Arabia's wealth is still invested in American banks, bonds, and companies. So even as the kingdom moves toward the future, the roots of its power and wealth still trace back to the early oil deals shaped by American influence, and yes, by the Rockefeller legacy. So, what do you think? Was Saudi Arabia's rise just about oil, or did powerful foreign families like the Rockefellers quietly shape the kingdom's future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more deep dives like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.